Good morning and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. It is April 25th, Friday, and I'm going away for the weekend. I'm going to go to a water park with my wife and my son. Now, I know that doesn't sound like the most romantic engagement to go on, but anytime I get to go away with my sweetie, I savor that opportunity. So I'm really excited. I gotta tell you, I'm really excited to go to this silly water park and run around with my little son, who's not even 2 years old yet. William Bat Baldwin. So I'm gonna touch on a few things. You know, as you know, hang on, don't cheat. The purple sand runs all. Life is about purple sand. And how much of that purple sand you have left in your hourglass, my friends. Thank you, that's the show, thank you. So the Pope died. I was going through, as I usually do, what do I want to talk about, what would be cool, what would blah, 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 blah. And the Pope died. Now, I don't want to get a bunch of calls, I don't want to get a bunch of emails and messages, but I grew up a Catholic. I grew up in a Roman Catholic, Irish, the Kennedys kind of situation, except we had no money, zero money. But I get that big Irish Catholic family. And altar boy, I mentioned, funny, maybe I should call Father Mac. I know he's in Italy, but Father Mac has come up a couple of times now in the last week. Father John Savini, Father White, all priests that I served under as an altar boy. I mean, a little kid, like 8, So anyway, so the Pope passed away, and he didn't have a big effect on my life. He didn't. I wasn't a huge follower of his. I respect the Catholic Church. I respect any religion. I respect anyone who chooses to believe whatever they want to believe. That's fine. Do whatever you want to do. You don't have to believe what I believe. I think one of the great things about it is we're all going to find out at some point. We're all going to find out. In the Bible, it mentions Jews, Christians. Christ was a Jew originally, and then he created Reformed Christianity, and that kind of evolved around his presence as the Son of God. In the Bible, it talks about being born again. So the Bible to me is a playbook. It really is. It's a map, a rule book, a strategy, a guidance key, however you want to absorb it or identify it. But certainly to me, because of the athletic background and us being kind of jockey kids, my dad had a big athletic influence. I relate a lot of things to sports. I do a lot of sports analogies. And the Bible is a playbook to me. So I got out of, when I became a born-again Christian, I got out of really following much to do with the Catholic Church anymore. I have members of my family, siblings that are still Catholic, go to church, go to Mass. Great, I don't see Catholicism talked about in the Bible. So it wasn't an option to me. I followed what I thought was the playbook for my personal belief system. So anyway, there's that whole background. And I was tempted to talk about the Catholic Church and everything because it's very topical. And now there's the selection process for a new pope and everything else. And while I was going through that and looking at some, history about this past pope that just died and everything, I read something that came up on a feed in my in my Facebook, sorry. And I want to read it to you. And it's 4 pages. So please be patient. But this right now has had much more of a dramatic effect on my life, what I'm about to read to you. Because when a light bulb goes off, when you hear something and you go, yes, that. This really, I had to read it twice, which normally I can take things in and decipher and go through on one read. I had to read this twice, and now I've read it like 5 times. And I just pulled it down, printed the 4 pages. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to tell you why this is so true to me. To me, it may not be to you, but to me, this resonated. It screamed at me. It screamed at me in the first read. And then the next read, it was even worse than screaming to me. It whispered to me. If you want to get someone's attention, whisper, hey, come here for a sec. Hey. Make it quiet. Make it subtle. Now they're straining to watching and their eyes are going like this and they're really paying attention and listening. this whispered to me. You ready? Why do they hate Trump? The truth may be hard to hear. Have you ever stopped to ask why the Democrats really hate Donald Trump? Think about it. It's not like he can run again. So why the obsession? Why the non-stop attacks? You're the ones who elected him. You're the ones who wanted change. Trump didn't craft his policies in a vacuum. He reflected the will of the American people. He gave a voice to millions who felt ignored, betrayed, and silenced. That's why they despise him. Not because he's a threat to democracy, but because you are a threat to their power, their values, their beliefs. Say it again. That's why they despise him. Not because he's a threat to democracy, but because you are a threat to their power, their values, and their beliefs. As soon as I got to that part, I thought, wait, huh? But I was already like this, reading it. Like you thumb through stuff, and it had me right at that part. The modern Democratic Party doesn't believe you can think for yourself. They believe the average American is too dumb, too immoral, and too backwards to know what's best. So they'll decide for you. They'll redefine morality, they'll reshape values, and they'll punish anyone who doesn't fall in line. And let's be clear, they only pretend to believe in the Constitution when they can twist and bend and reshape it to fit their agenda. No president in American history, from George Washington to Barack Obama, has ever been expected to provide a judge and jury to deport someone who crossed over the border illegally. Now, basic law enforcement is controversial because it doesn't align with the political objectives, with their political objectives. Now, think about that for a second. No president has ever before, and they had a list of who were the all-time most deportations. Obama leading by far, like close to 3 million or something. Almost 3 times more than Trump has deported for now. And other presidents from Reagan to, millions of people. And none of them ever had to face a judge. None of them ever had to do any of this jumping through hoops and the stuff that this president and administration has had to do. And it gotten the attention and the fierce opposition from anyone. Get out. You came in illegally. No one had a problem with that. Each one of these people ran. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, blah, blah, Bushes. They all get out. You came in illegally. You got to go. Consensus. One of the few things they all, right, left, no matter what, had in common. Let me go back to the end. I want to go back and find if there's, it's not in this piece, sorry. If it were purely about Donald Trump, your family and friends wouldn't have abandoned you just for voting for him. They didn't turn their backs on you because of who he is. They did it because of who you are. Because deep down, they despise the values you stand for. It was never about Trump. It was always about you. Ronald Reagan once said, "I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The party left me." Since then, the left has drifted even further, abandoning traditional American values for radical ideologies like socialism, equity mandates, diversity, and moral relativism. And they're angry that you haven't followed them off that cliff. So, by hook or by crook, they're determined to silence anyone who still believes in the Constitution, in liberty, in faith, in family, in national sovereignty. The truth is, we haven't changed. We still believe in the founding principles of this nation. They don't like those principles anymore. They'll call it fairness. They'll call it equity. But what it really is called is control. And that's why they hate Trump, because he gave control back to you. Because he reminded the American people of their own power. Because he put you first. Because in the end, reality trumps fear. I had to read that a second time to absorb. They don't really hate Trump. They hate you, and they hate what you stand for. Now, do I believe, and I have family members right up from the top to the bottom, that I just don't see eye to eye with politically at all. And I thought that we were aligned politically. And I mean, I see eye to eye with one sister, not the other. I see eye to eye. Two of my brothers, of my three brothers, not at all. And my third brother has said now, all over the internet, has announced that he's out of the political game. He doesn't have an opinion on either right or left or Republican or Democrat. So I don't know what to say. I've lost a lot of friends. Not super close friends, not super close. And I have some very close friends that are Democrats that we just don't, and so we kind of don't talk about it. We don't too much. We don't, some of them, poke fun at or post something in retaliation to something I post, which is funny because it's my page on social media or pages. This show goes out on several social media venues, and I have to remind people. Sometimes I have to get a little scrappy. I have to get a little direct, and I'll message the person privately if I know them, or if it's somebody who has in the entertainment business or a celebrity in some way. I might write them once. Hey, if you don't agree with that, please don't write that on my page. Write it on yours. Why are you trolling my page if you're my friend? And now, if you're not somebody I know, it's open game. Get it, man. This is how it goes. This is how I never really understood how some celebrities, punch people in the face on camera and do the things that they do. Unless you're touched, unless, people aren't held accountable anymore like they used to in the old days. They can say whatever they want and you can't really do anything about it. Now, when I grew up, if you walked up and you said something about someone's wife or mother or sister or whatever it was, you could get knocked in the mouth and no one said anything. You could look at a cop who showed up and said, he said blank, blank, blank. He said that, so that was okay. That was okay to do that. I like that those times. If I opened my big mouth or I had too much to drink and I was wising off to the wrong guy and someone had to put me in line, backhand me across the face and tell me to be quiet. That didn't happen very often, but it didn't happen very often because I was such a tough guy. It didn't happen very often because I didn't do that kind of stuff. Maybe when I was like a teenager, but I would never insult someone or say whatever. Now with social media, I take some shots at people. I do. I say some things to people who I don't know well, or I have never met political figures, because they're liars. Because they're lying to us, and they have an agenda. It's so obvious. And again, I'm not ever saying that the right, the left, anyone is not guilty of this themselves. Both sides do it. Both sides do it. But the hatred, I've never experienced the blind, I don't know you, I've never met you, I've never said a word to you. The blind, ridiculous hatred and misinformation that comes from the Democratic Party. Not every Democrat, I'm not saying, but wow. Stuff that I know is not true. I know it's not true. I know you're effing lying. I know you're a liar. I know when I'm reading the article. I know this clown is writing this for the New York Times or whatever he's writing it for, and I'm going, that's it. That's not what happened. I was there, or I spoke to that person shortly thereafter, or I watched the videotape. That's not the actual videotape. They've edited that, and it just goes on and on and on. They did everything they could to keep this man out of office. Everything. I mean, just from shooting at him. And then they put out, the conspiracy theories of, it was his guys. They missed him on purpose. They had blood in their hand and they put it on his ear, and they, just blah, 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 blah. And you know what? What I just read you is really true. They can't stand that this guy's not part of that system, that he's going in there this time. And he learned his lesson from the first one. You can't go slow. You can't spoon feed it. You have to go in and attack if you want true change. And if you want a chance to change it and not just have the next guy come in if the Republicans lose and revert all the stuff. I mean, it's crazy. But I have to tell you that I was so taken aback by the truth in what I read and how it felt to me. They don't hate Trump. They hate what Trump stands for, and they hate you because you're strong enough to say, I want change and I want this to change. And because he represents what we elected him for. He's doing what we wanted. So they focus it on this one guy like it's him. It's not him. It's me. It's me and many millions and millions of people like me that showed up and voted and put this guy in office because we're so tired of it. We're so tired. I get to travel, I'm not Joe World Traveler, but I'm out of the country at least one time a year, which when I was a kid, my parents didn't leave the country. Where were they going? I mean, they might have drove over, I guess, in their socioeconomic group to Canada a couple times in their life, but we lived in Massapequa, New York. We spent our time in Massapequa, occasionally went into Brooklyn when my grandparents were there, occasionally went upstate to see our cousins, but we weren't in that place where we were going on, swinging down to Florida. Even in the States, we weren't doing much, not as kids. We just weren't that family that had that kind of money, not other countries. And I go more than, multiple times a year to other countries. The way they look at us, what they think of America, I swear to God, I had no idea. And what they thought of America as I started as an actor to travel. And so I booked movies. Canada was very popular. I even lived up there for a while on the west coast of Canada in British Columbia, in Vancouver. I loved BC. It's such a beautiful province. It's just amazing. But Sweden and Switzerland and Italy and Germany and Mexico and different, just a lot of places that I went and I worked or I had some money and I went on vacation because I always wanted to see them. I saw the pictures and I was like, wow, what's that like? What is Greece like? All those cool white buildings and the water and then I got to go see it. And then I got to work more as an actor and had three brothers, particularly Alec, who was very famous. And so that contributed to access to other things where I would meet political figures or, if it had a monarchy, I would meet, parts of the royal family or even the king or prince or whatever it was. And back in the 80s and 90s, people still looked at the US, kind of big, forceful, powerful, but a lot of people, it was really interesting to me, thought the US was all like Vegas, big giant buildings. It doesn't make a lot of press how much farming we do here and how much industry is here, but it's all, Chicago, bang, bang, Miami, the hot chicks on the beach, and New York, it's just this big place where they kill each other all the time and the mafia's presence. But Vegas comes to mind. It's like a big show. The States is this big show and everyone wants to come. Everyone's like, oh my God, I want to come to the United States. We have a lot of freedoms here that they can't imagine and a lot of opportunity to make it. That's another big thing that resonates around the world. You go to New York and you move there, or you come to the United States, and you could take a small business and you could really make it there. You could become a millionaire. A lot of opportunity to become financially successful goes out across the globe as far as what the United States means to these people. When I tell people, I'm in Sardinia and I'm shooting a movie and I become friends because I go to the same restaurants. I'm a creature of habit. So I make my 25 friends, the mayor of this town, Iglesias, that I was living in. So I go to church with them. I'd come to their homes on Sunday. I got to know them better. And they would look and they always were kind of like nodding their head a little bit like, you're so different than what we expected you would be like because you're a movie actor and one of the Baldwins and all this kind of stuff. And what did you expect? Like, I'm interested because you would only known me for parts in films that you've seen. You really wouldn't know that much about me. So, and certainly I wasn't, and I'm not Alec, where I was such a big actor that everybody knew me. What did you expect me to be like? And it was more about being an American, being friendly, being fun, being funny, being caring. They did not expect that of me. And I got a lot of comments about, wow, are all Americans like you? Because they only get to meet tourists and, people with money come in their restaurants and start snapping their fingers. And they don't know the average American person. They don't know what it's the communities. And like I said, the farming and the mid-America and the lovely, families in New York, walk down, one of the boulevards in Little Italy and meet, during the Feast of San Gennaro, the families, that are out front serving their favorite delicacies. And, we're this great big melting pot of love and family in this country. But that's not what makes the news. What makes the news is that New York City has more murders every year than, every single country in Europe. All full countries, this little city, compared to the size of their countries, the actual geographic size, not the population. At any rate, I've never felt so much division in my country. I've said to my wife recently, we live in Atlanta, Georgia, in a suburb of Atlanta, and my wife's an attorney here. She'd be successful no matter where we lived. She's just that person, driven, super, super smart, exceptionally beautiful. In case she watches the show before we go away, I want to make sure I put it in there. Put the word in for mom. No, I'm only kidding. She is all those things. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have her in my life. So she would make it wherever we lived. And I've got 2 teenage girls. One's a junior and one's a freshman in high school. And when my junior has 1 more year of school here, so I can't leave Atlanta. But Atlanta, to me, may not be the best spot for me. It might not be. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why is the access to the ocean. I'm a California. New York has ocean access. I grew up on an island, on Long Island. Texas, I can really relate to Texas. Or Puerto Rico. My oldest daughter, she doesn't want to leave. She's like, I'm not going anywhere. Where are we going? We're not moving my senior year. And God bless her, that would be fair to her. And my wife's totally cool. She's like, look, I can do what I do wherever we go. Where do you want to go? And so we've looked around, and I'm leaning towards the Gulf Coast and probably Texas. I've lived in Texas before. I've lived in San Antonio in the Texas Hill Country, which is just beautiful. I was in Canyon Lake, and I love San Antonio. On the other side, we were in the middle between San Antonio and Austin. Austin's a great city. And with a senior in high school, she goes to one of the big Texas universities. That would be great because we could see her more. But I don't know what she's going to do. But for me, for this soul, I like the mindset of a lot of Texans. I did okay around Dallas, but I really liked Houston, and I liked the Gulf of Mexico communities. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at going there. I'm looking at probably leaving Atlanta, and I wanted to be around people too. I never realized with the division that's going on that it would matter to me that much, because I was raised in New York, and I could walk right into New York City and fit right in. You'd never know. And I can handle that speed, and I can handle that stress level, and I can handle the soot and the dirt and the crime. I'm a New York kid. Wouldn't intimidate me in any way. Not for a second. I don't know that it's the best place to raise my kids. I have a little baby now. He's not even 2 years old, Bat. So I don't think that staying on the East Coast and moving north would help me. I'm getting old, and I want to be around politically minded people. I want to be around people that would understand what I mean by this, that would get it. That there's going to be people and there's Democrats and friends and stuff that watch the shorts and watch the show that I know, that I love, that I care about, that I'm friends with, that I like. And they're going to say, that's BS. What the are you talking about? This, you can't deny that. You can't deny. In what world would you be upset about exposing ripoffs that are happening to us with our tax dollars? In any other administration in the history of this country, in the history of the world, you see the Roman legion riding in, and they go, "We've come to collect your taxes. We understand you've been stealing." You see people that protect neighborhoods, stereotypical mafia figures that we're going to protect you and make sure that you're safe. Look at The Godfather and Godfather 2. The guy goes around all around Manhattan, and he's stealing the business owner's money. Just give me a little taste. Give me a little taste of that. He's skimming off the top. Businesses where people get caught stealing money. What happened to your money? What happened with your business manager? I heard he took off and left the country. He did. And he stole millions of dollars of mine. Millions. They were doing this scam where they were sending money offshore. They put it in some place. he had access to all of our accounts, and he drained them and split. Now he's wanted and the FBI is involved and they're trying to track him down. This kind of stuff, you hear these stories all the time. Watch Forensic Files about fake deaths that people do. All kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff happens. And you're always going, there's the little old lady who got scammed out of her Social Security from some neighbor who, was over there doing healthcare, stealing checks and writing checks, whatever it is. You rooted for the underdog that got robbed. Now it's your money. It's our money. Our money is being taken and diverted. President handled the Zelensky trip and they, how terrible, and we can't leave these young Ukrainian men unprotected by this awful, horrid Putin. But I'm not even going to get into how many layers of the story, how NATO was moving in to the Ukraine and there was no way Putin was going to allow that, blah, 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 blah. Did Putin aggress and did Russia aggress and start the war with Ukraine? Yes. Can we solve this? Can we do it? But this Zelensky guy, and dude, just read. Stop listening to what they tell you on the news. Stop listening to what they say on Fox, on CNN. Just fact check it. This guy was an actor. And this administration cannot tell us where half the money that we've sent over there in aid is. They don't know. Come on, man. I went to the bank the other day. I needed to make a sizable withdrawal. And the teller looked at me and said, I think you need to talk to the manager. We're not quite sure where your $600,000 is. There's $600,000 missing. You still have $40,000 in there, but 600 of it's gone. You would freak out. You would go, your life savings, we're not sure where that is. These guys can't tell you where hundreds of billions of dollars are. The government can't tell us and can't really put a finger on where trillions of dollars are. There are people that subscribe, and this is how they funnel the money out. This is how they get the kickbacks, and all their friends make a lot of money. They're taking money and it's going on paper to some program that's going to help, stop AIDS in Africa and do this and that. And then they find out that $400 million went in 2 years to this program, and they can only really trace and see where they spent and receipts for $4 million of it. So $396 million is unaccounted for. And as they do a deeper trace, you realize that people are just getting rich off of it. There's thousands of these types of scams and ripoffs going. They've been having a field day. We can't get new bridges. I know I say some things, I repeat some of the same things. I do. And I sometimes get a little bit excited. We can't feed or house our veterans. Men and women that went overseas and have gone and been deployed, some of them injured, some of them have paid the ultimate price. They're dead. They died for their country, for us, for our freedom. And their wife is home with 2 kids, and she's not sure how to keep the heat on or how to keep the lights on or whether she can pay her mortgage. Aren't you ashamed of that? I'm ashamed of that. When I see a homeless veteran in LA or I see, the homeless guys here in Atlanta, and I go by Waters. I don't just give them money because some of them have problems and not all of them are veterans. Some of them have drug and alcohol problems, but I don't give them that option. I go buy them a sandwich. I go by the coming off the ramp from the, hey man, with the sign, I'm a homeless veteran. Hey, what branch were you in? I was a Marine, bro, blah, blah, blah. Okay, are you hungry? Yeah. And I go by them and they probably think, well, that was dicky of this guy. No, I'm going to a store. I'm going to have him make him a couple of roast beef sandwiches, 2 waters. I'm going to come back all the way around. Or if I have an appointment, I'll go finish the appointment and go find the guy, hopefully. Sometimes I've had the bag in the car and the guy was gone. And I wondered, should I just give him 10, 5, 2, whatever? I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed in this country. But if you look at the waste, if you look at the money, Social Security is going to run out. I'm 64. I've volunteered money into that fund for a lot of years, decades. It's not going to be there for me. I'm not some gazillionaire cat. I don't have Alex money or the stereotype that an actor who's worked a lot and blah, blah. I've worked a lot, done a lot of stuff, TV, films, 150 movies or something like that, more than that. But I wasn't, George Clooney, where you made a Brad Pitt or these guys who make these astronomical amounts of money. No, I didn't. And I wasted money. I didn't invest properly, and I didn't, lots of stuff that's on me. I'm okay with that. I'm here now doing the Lord's work, serving God. I'm serving God right now by telling you what I'm telling you. Now, in any other world, what this administration is doing would have been praised. Wow, this guy's standing up to the tribunal. This guy's standing up to Parliament. This guy's standing up to, Chinese empires and in Tiananmen Square. But not here. Because the guys who are going to suffer, because the gravy train's over. The gravy train is over. Names are coming. Big names. Big people are going to get prosecuted. Maybe even people and their relatives that held the highest office in our land. It could get that big. Now, I'm not saying I know that's going to happen, but the stuff I hear, the stuff that's rumored, senators, congressmen, and women, yeah, man, it's coming. It's coming. They don't hate Trump. They hate you and me. They hate us because we're tired of the way it is, and because we're not in that group that benefits from the terrifying misuse of money, misdirection, and outright pirating and stealing of our tax dollars. And we elected somebody that's going to do something about it. He's just a figure of us. They hate us. They want to take patriotism, saluting the flag, saying the Pledge of Allegiance. They want to deteriorate the moral fiber with all the, listen, amen, and God bless the people that say, you can't pray in school. We're going to take God out. There's no reason why. And I used to sit there and listen to this crap as a Catholic. We're not going to allow that. We don't want that. Why should, if someone's Jewish or someone's this or someone's that, why should we have them have to listen to this prayer? But we can have someone who's a transgender or transvestite or whatever they are. They have rights to come into your school with your second and third graders and read some trans story out of a book. And they go in there and how confusing it is to see someone who is obviously to them a man, let's say in this case, or may even be the brother or father of someone they know. And they go in there and they're all dressed up as a woman with the makeup on and everything else. And they're like, I don't want that in the school for my kids. I don't. I'm not saying, this is just like the abortion issue. I'm not saying that you don't have a right. I'm not taking away your right. I'm not telling anyone what to do with your right to have an abortion. I'm not. For this Christian, for this man, abortion is not an option to me. I am not going to tell you what you should do with your body. I'm not. I am going to say, if you come to me and you ask me what I think about it, I'm going to say, I don't think that's what God would want you to do. I don't think so. And if it were up to me, if I was in that situation, I would say, I would, if I could physically carry the baby, if you wanted nothing to do with me ever again, if I was never going to talk to you again, if it didn't work for you, for whatever the reason was, I'd say, okay, well, I'm going to have the baby. I would do that. I'm going to have this child. So good luck to you. Bye. Why is that so confusing for someone to digest? I'm not telling them that they shouldn't have an abortion. You're going to walk up, you're going to die one day. And in my belief system, if you haven't accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, confess your sins, you're not going. You're not going to the big show, baby. You're not playing at Yankee Stadium. You're not. That's what I believe. I have my dear friend Rabbi Benny is a rabbi. I go at it with him all the time, teasing him, making fun of him, kidding with him, denouncing anything about those who practice the Jewish faith. He's a rabbi, holiest of holiest, high, big presence in his community, the Baharian community. I'm doing a big event with those guys. Love and respect him. Do I think he's going into the field level seats? He's getting in there, at the stadium called heaven? We'll see. We'll see what happens. We're all going to find out. We're all going to find out. So you do what your God conscience, what your belief system tells you to do. There's a book, there's the Torah, there's this, there's the Quran, there's all kinds of stuff for you to fall back on. Every one of them has a playbook. Mine's the Bible. Do your interpretation of it. Have at it. Good luck. God bless you. Really, God bless you. Be good. Serve. They all have fundamentally sound beliefs and practices. Have at it. Do it. But we're shaking things up right now in this country. We are. We want to talk about tariffs. We want to talk about deporting a young man who is involved with a group that's has proven to be a dangerous group. Yeah. And people are screaming. Congressmen, Democratic congressmen, are flying to El Salvador to go meet him to check on whether he's okay. Is he okay? Is he okay? They don't hate him. They hate you and they hate me. What does that sound like? What does that remind you of? What does it remind you of? I think about my teachings, the stuff that I've read and the stuff that I've learned about when Christ actually walked on this planet. And I'm not saying any politician or any athlete or any star, or any person or anyone rivals Jesus, obviously. Obviously, that's not true. But Gandhi, Dr. King, Martin Luther King, they didn't hate him. They didn't know him well, but they hated all those that supported him. And he was a figure of those people. History will not shine friendly on the opposition of this administration and the direction this country is attempting to get back on. We're getting back on the bike. We fell off. We're trying to get back on the bike now. That's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to ride. Let's get it going. Let's take one step, one pedal at a time. But let me tell you something. These words, I'm going to send these words to Bunny and see if somewhere we could post these. This cleared things up for me some. This made sense for me. This, I hope, helps you understand that this is an entire way of life we're talking about. This is an entire, even the Christian part of it. The Christian part, the things that this president openly praying on camera and doing things where, I remember the Michael Jordan quote, and this is not verbatim, but I'm paraphrasing, but they asked him why he didn't use his incredible power, to make political statements and everything. And he said, Republicans wear sneakers too. He didn't want to make a stand, and because it would have been sales. I'm not even going to get into how I feel about that or what somebody with that kind of iconic power could have done to change. It was going to hurt his sales, so he decided not to do it. But the point of it is, I don't think this president, I don't think he cares. He's not part of the system. He's not a career politician. He's a business guy. Like him or not. Forget about whether you like him or not. You don't get a chance, and I've always used this analogy. You get traded to a team or a team drafts you. They just had the NFL draft. And, so-and-so is going to the Cleveland Browns. And you're like, they don't do a run and shoot high-powered offense and this guy, but this guy was that valuable that they drafted him. They may trade him. They may use him to lure other players in some big deal or whatever. But you're the player, and you're looking at going, oh, Cleveland, it's freezing up there. They play outdoors. Blah, 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 blah. All this different stuff. I'm going to the Buffalo. Buffalo's great, but you better be okay with playing in pretty crummy weather. So if you're a wide receiver and you're wearing those gloves and they're throwing in the snow and you're freezing your ass off, you don't get a say in that. You don't get a say in how many times you get the ball thrown to you and you're in the system. This is how the coach runs the team. And this is, going in. I'm not that excited about going here. Jim Kelly, the legendary quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, was like, I don't want to play there. I don't want to play there. He was down at the University of Miami. He wanted to be in warm weather where you can throw the ball a lot. And he did not want to go up to the Buffalo Bills. He did not. Surprised what happened up there for him. One of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. You don't get a say. This guy has the job. You get on the team and you do everything you can to help the team win. They don't hate him. They hate us. They hate us because we're going to go on this team and we're going to take this team in a new direction and we're going to try to win all together. Imagine what would happen if these people who believe supposedly so differently than we do, from the same country, if they just tried to help us get it done. If we all went, okay, you know what? So we're a great nation when something terrible happens, a disaster of some kind, or, you know, we can rally around 9/11, there's, you know, flags all over the country, buildings fall, thousands of people dead, and we rallied, man. I mean, don't mess around with the U.S. when we're all on the same page. We're a formidable opponent. We are. I would never want to be the people that came to our country and tried to attack us like Pearl Harbor. Look what happened in Japan. It was bad over there, what we did to those people. And they attacked. They attacked us. You know, don't mess around with the big kid at the end of the table. Don't mess around with him, because you know what? He's a big kid at the end of the table. He sits down there and minds his own business for a reason. Okay? He's not afraid of you. He's not afraid of you. Take this with you today. They don't hate him. They hate us, and they hate what we stand for. Wow, man. That was so freeing to me. So as you know, I end my show in prayer. So here we go. Heavenly Father, I thank you, Lord, for your wisdom, your guidance, and your protection. Please, Lord, my family's health, my wife's health, my beautiful angel, please continue to keep her healthy, keep my kids healthy, and my health, Lord. I appreciate you, and I praise you for all you do, for all of the greatness that you put in my life. And I serve you without question. I serve you, Lord. Amen. That's the show. I'm heading out to the water park, man. I'm going to the water park. They don't hate him. They hate us and what we stand for. Remember that. Hang on to that. Hang on to that this weekend. God bless you.